We will now interrupt your regularly scheduled programming for this Good Old Blades micro podcast.
Engine turning, jeweling, or guilloche are all the same terminology for what in modern knife making we call jeweling, right? And it's a method for embellishing work by which you take an abrasive and you create a circular pattern on the surface of your work that gives it a shimmer or consistent circular finish across the entire work. And where you see that a lot is in pocket knives, especially on the inside of the liners. And it's usually with an abrasive medium of some sort. Kratex pens. I think Guesswin also makes stones that you can do it with. You can do it sometimes with wire brushes that are circular and also abrasive pads. The term engine turning is very synonymous with what was done in the turn of the century with a bunch of bezels, consoles, cowling, and internal pieces of or probably more external pieces, but what you see in the interiors of cars or automobiles and planes and things like that. It was used primarily to give an embellishment to surfaces that otherwise were homogeneous and dull. And but the term engine turning is not actually because it was used on engines after the turn of the century, but because there was an engine turning tool somewhere in the 1600s that would actually perform it. And it was used a lot in things like doing patterns on enamels and ivories and soft metals. And then it kind of transformed into being used on jewelry and vases and other things like that. So art pieces. You can also find it on watch movements. Guilloche as a French term. And you can see it on the internals of watches as well. I think there's also some forms of it on Fabergé eggs. At least for the historical sake, engine turning didn't start when at the advent of the vehicle, right? But the easiest way to accomplish jeweling is to be able to have a stabilized surface for your work. So let's just assume you're doing liners, for instance, on slip joints or liner locks or lockbacks or whatever, right? You have a stable surface that can remain flat, and you use something like a Kratex pen and an applicator as a little a stylus that you put the Kratex in to hold it, and then you can spin it in a drill press. And then the easiest way is to mark your lines. So all the lines should be equidistant from each other, and in a row, so that you can tap down slowly on the Kratex pen or the abrasive pen, and put your marks in it, and you can follow that line and overlap them, kind of like stacking dimes that you kind of do in welding, right? So you're trying to overlap the circles and do it in a pattern that is straight and uniform. And those really produce the very best jeweling look and feel, I would say. What's interesting is that it doesn't actually come up a whole lot in modern knife making other than pocket knives that I see. I have seen some early 70s and 80s versions of it on the actual blade or bevels of blades, for instance. And I think it looks pretty interesting. Especially if you were to do it on the flats of your blades and leave your bevels with an as ground finish or something, I think the contrast would look pretty interesting. But a lot of people don't really know about jeweling too much, just because it's kind of obscure. I mean, you're looking at it mostly as an embellishment on the inside of knives, and you don't really get a good picture of it on the outside of anywhere. So maybe look it up, jeweling, engine turning, or guilloche, I believe is the French term. Kratex pens or applicators are a decent medium to use for it. And you can buy the styluses to hold the Cratex a bunch of different places. But try it out. I mean, I think it's a really great tool to embellish your work, and you might actually get some eyes turned towards it. I think it really deserves a little bit of a renaissance because it is a cool embellishment to use. And there's a lot of other guilloche methods for cutting in circles and patterns and things like that are more intricate that I think that it might be something to look into as well. Lots of inventive ways to make that happen and machinery to develop to do that. So take a look at it. Hope that helps.